I am on a journey to get perfection in my first save of Stardew Valley, and today we are getting closer and closer to that goal. In this video, I set up a ton of kegs, get a ton of progress on friendship, work on Slayer goals, and tons of other random stuff. So, I hope you enjoy. Welcome to winter. Day 311 was Krobus's birthday, so I headed down to the sewers first thing in the morning to give him a diamond. After that, I went to Jared's old house and stole anything of worth that I could find, moving it into my chests instead. Then I put some ores in the furnaces and bought, honestly, way too much wood from Robin. And finally, before bed, I collected the ancient fruit wine and tilled a small area of my farm to plant some powder melons I had been hoarding for the last year. That night, I made 200,000 gold from the ancient fruit wine. Day 312, I finally realized that the broccoli I had been growing in my house was completely useless, and a huge waste of space. After destroying that, I headed to the greenhouse to collect some ready ancient fruit, along with all the fruit trees and some oak resin. With this batch of oak resin, I finished filling the basement with kegs, so I refilled them all with some more ancient fruit I had been stockpiling for winter. I had way too many kegs and nowhere to put them, so I figured I would put them in the quarry. And after making some progress on that, I headed to the lava floors to hunt for some more shadow monsters, where I somehow managed to die in the mines 10 minutes before the end of the day. Day 313, I completely forgot to hit the record button, but luckily Real-Time Mango filled us in. According to my sources, I got 2 more Monster Slayer goals, then worked on the cooking collection items and shipped a few things, meaning that we only have 2 more Monster Slayer goals to get 10% closer to perfection. I actually hit record on day 318, which started with collecting the ready powder melons and putting them in the seed makers. After they had all been converted to seeds, I placed them down and expanded the field a little bit. After that, I meandered around town a bit and collected the finished ancient fruit wine. Day 319, I collected the greenhouse and oak resin before putting some copper in the furnaces so I could make some more kegs. Then I refilled the basement kegs, placed the new kegs in the quarry, and filled all of those as well. Then I went to Ginger Island and headed to the Walnut Room, where I awkwardly got the cutscene explaining everything despite already having key gems, as I had never personally entered the room and the only quest I had done was started by Jared. I didn't think I had the capabilities to get 4 prismatic shards in 20 days, but I picked the quest nonetheless, as there was absolutely no way I was finding 100 different items in various colors. Also, if you were wondering, I have 37% of perfection right now, but don't worry, that'll ramp up quickly. While I was on the island, I bought a banana sapling from the trader and planted it, and then went to the volcano to grind dragon teeth. I respawned on the island on day 320, so I figured I might as well grind some more dragon teeth. It took basically all day, but I cleared out the entire volcano, running through it a second time later that night, which was not lucrative at all, as nothing respawned. For the 3rd day in a row, I went to the volcano on day 321, and decided to leave the island quite early on in the day, opting to leave behind the warmth of the island and return to the cold winter in the valley. Anyways, I did basically nothing all day, and went to bed at the ripe time of 2 in the afternoon. I went to Skull Caverns on day 322, but only for a short time, before I returned to the valley to grind some ice in the cold floors of the mines, where I proceeded to spend the entire day. Day 323 started with smelting the iron from yesterday, and then heading back to the mines to get even more iron, and once again I spent the entire day in the mines. I smelted more iron on day 324, and then crafted up 30 iridium sprinklers. I placed down the first few sprinklers in Jared's old farm plot, and then grabbed a ton of bombs to blow up all the farm infrastructure so I could rebuild it all much better. Using bombs was maybe not the best idea, as I ended up voiding a ton of the advanced sprinklers, but I was basically done with them anyways, so it wasn't a huge loss. I went to bed around 10 with plans to rebuild tomorrow. The powder melons were ready on day 325, and once I had them all harvested, I was free to blow up the plot they were in. And so, with all the fields and pathing around the farm demolished, I headed up to Robin's to move around the building. Honestly, most of the things I moved got put in a more inconvenient spot, but it was fine, as most of the placements were temporary anyway, which was proved when I came back to Robin's and waited way too long for this stupid cat that I didn't even want to move out of the way. Spoiler, it never did. However, I did make a ton of progress on planning out the new fields and paths when I got home. I took a little break near the end of the day to collect all the ancient fruit wine and promptly went to bed. I collected the oak resin on the morning of day 326 and smelted some copper and bought some more wood at Robin's, which, rather unsurprisingly, was used to expand the kegs in the quarry. I moved the path down for one more sprinkler on day 327, and then headed to Robin's to move the various buildings to be a lot more convenient and fit to my liking, before spending the rest of the day doing various chores around the farm. Day 328 started by waiting for Pam to get to her job to drive the bus. Once she got there, I went to the desert for about 4 milliseconds to purchase some artifact troves, and immediately left. Once I was back in the valley, I headed to Clint's, where I got some elvish jewelry to donate to the museum. After that, I headed back to the desert again, presumably to find some more monsters to finish off the last 2 Slayer goals. I'm pretty sure I was here for the rock crabs, as I find iridium rock crabs to be much easier to find than the regular ones, since they have like a 5% chance of spawning as opposed to 0.5%. Day 329 was the exact same thing as yesterday, where I waited at the bus stop to go to Skull Caverns and spent the rest of the day grinding for rock crabs. Day 330 was a little different as I stepped inside the greenhouse today, and then started waiting for the bus. I decided to do something useful today while I waited, so I gave Evelyn and Georgia gifts before Pam got there. However, of course, come 10 o'clock, I was waiting at the bus stop. Yet again, no luck today, as I spent my whole day in the caverns. The last 3 days did have one good thing come out of them, however, as on day 331, I had another artifact to donate to the museum, meaning that there are now very few artifacts I have left to donate. After that, I bought some staircases and descended down the caverns to get to the iridium levels faster, and therefore find more crabs. I took a screenshot to send to Jared on day 332 of my spoils from the day prior, including 7 prismatic shards, which is an absolutely baffling number, and I cannot believe I got that many in one day. After that, I headed to Ginger Island to give the prismatic shards to Key, giving me 40 more key gems, where I bought Pierre's missing stock list to work on shipping every crop. After giving it to Pierre, I bought 25 of any crop I was missing, and stole some sprinklers from the valley as I was finally planting crops on the island. I spent the rest of the day setting that up before coming home to steal some more sprinklers as I didn't quite have enough to cover every crop. The ancient fruit wine was ready on day 333, so the morning was spent collecting all of that and refilling them with a bunch more ancient fruit, before collecting the greenhouse and heading back to Ginger Island, planted the rest of the crops. Back in the valley, I collected the oak resin and went to bed, making 400,000 gold from the wine. Day 334 was an important day, as early in the morning I bought my second obelisk, that being the Island Obelisk, costing 1 million gold, 10 dragon teeth, and other assorted goods. I had a ton of iridium from the Skull Caverns runs, so I spent the next part of the day placing down a ton more iridium sprinklers on the farm, since I had taken all the old ones to Ginger Island. Then I expanded the pathing on the farm and added some kegs to the quarry. I planned out the locations of my last 2 obelisks in the golden clock on the morning of day 335, and then spent basically the entire rest of the day making a ton more ancient fruit seeds for the next spring. Day 336, I waited in front of the saloon for a bit before feeding my animals and then going back to the saloon to give Gus a birthday gift. Notice how the icon didn't go away? Yeah, turns out it's Clint's birthday. My bad. So of course I had to give him a gift right after. Then I moved my shipping list for the cooking recipes on screen accidentally, so yeah, there's my list, I guess. And then to end the night, I fished for some of the fish that I needed for said recipes. I fished some more while waiting for Willie's to open on day 337, and when it did, I took the boat to the island for some reason, despite having just made a new obelisk. And then I spent some more walnuts on an obelisk back to the farm. Then I fished some more, stood still on the dock for a couple hours, fished again, and did some more smelting, which I've been doing pretty much 24/7 for the last week or so, and just not mentioning it because who wants to hear about smelting thousands of ores? Day 338 is the last day of the season and year, so I headed to Skull Caverns. I'd like to say I did something more interesting for the rest of the day, but unfortunately all I did was smelting. Just so much smelting. And that was all I did all day, marking the end of this video and year 3. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, you probably liked it, so it'd be great if you could like and subscribe. It really does help out the video and sends it to a lot more people. If you want to join a Stardew Valley Discord server, it'd be great if you joined mine. I'm trying to get a bunch more Stardew players on there. I try to stream pretty often if you want to catch me there. And thank you so much to my members. That's all for me, and I hope to see you all somewhere else on the internet.